Hello, everyone. My name is Jordyn Smith, and I am the voice of the astrologer for this YouTube channel, Nonconformist Content. Before I get into this week's astrology for you all, a couple of announcements. One is I am not writing a forecast for this week. I do not have the time to do a written forecast and a video forecast. Also, this is my second time trying to make this video because there was a big snafu the first time. So there's that announcement. And the second announcement is that if you are a Cancer and you're wanting the birthday special, you have until Saturday before it switches over to Leos for their birthday special. So if you've been thinking about getting a Cancer birthday special, you can book that. You can book it for weeks out, but it just needs to be booked by the 20th. So there's that, and I'm really looking forward to connecting with the Leos. So let's talk about a couple of things that are leading up to Mars entering Gemini and then the Capricorn full moon. Whenever I go over the Capricorn full moon, because there's a lot going on, I will bring up the chart and annotate it for all of us. But for now, I'm just gonna speak to a couple of things. Over the weekend, we had the Uranus-Mars conjunction at 26 degrees Capricorn. It is in this new phase still, and we're gonna be really feeling this energy. And then Mars is going to enter into Gemini on the 20th. So let me talk a little bit about a couple of things. Last week, I talked about this more on personal levels, how this can manifest in your life, depending on where it falls in your chart. And I will go over the fire, earth, water, and air signs, the houses as in a general way. I'm not going to go through each house, but I will go through those four sets of elements. Drawing a blank. Oh my goodness. I think I'm a little frazzled because this is my second time of doing this. So, okay. Uranus conjunct Mars in Taurus over the weekend. I do want to say, and I don't want to get into politics very much. I feel like it ruffles a lot of people's feathers. I'm not going to get into my own necessarily political views, but what I will say is on a collective level. Taurus is about resources. It's about our land. It is about the resources on this planet and the natural resources. On personal levels, it's about our own inner resources that are natural to each one of us. But it is the archetype of land and resources. Uranus is about liberation and liberating from the known and the familiar. It's about liberating from beliefs and values and all types of social constructs. Just think about Uranus, Aquarius energy. It's about revolution and rebellion. Whereas Mars is about action on a desire level. It's about cultivating new patterns. And it's about looking at old patterns in order to cultivate new patterns on a collective level. So when we're looking at this from the collective soul level, the Uranus-Mars new phase conjunction in Taurus really speaks to, and remembering that the North Node right now is ruled by this Mars. The South Node in Libra is ruled by Venus and Leo, as we're seeing a lot of things go on in the world, especially since this conjunction happened. Something I want to remind all of us is that there are new patterns on a collective level that want to be cultivated, pertaining to a liberation from values, Taurus, Venus, Libra. that are not rooted in giving, sharing, and inclusion. South Node in Libra, ruled by a Venus in Leo, Venus and Leo ruling this Mars and this Uranus. Over the weekend during this, and it's going to be ruling Uranus for a while. So Venus in Leo, whenever it is not naturally expressed, can be about exclusion. It can be about the feelings of indignation and the exclusionary behaviors that are rooted in one's values of that are exclusionary. Yeah. And whenever it's ruling this South Node in Libra, which is all about giving, sharing, and inclusion when naturally expressed, but whenever it's not naturally expressed, it's about the extremes and imbalances that are created stemming from exclusionary behavior. Now, we've got to think about this Venus ruling Uranus Mars that's in a new phase conjunction. Uranus wants a lifestyle change, and Mars wants us to cultivate new patterns that are rooted in values that are inclusive, that are giving, sharing, and inclusion. That's the lifestyle change that's wanting to happen on a collective level in order for Mars North Node, new patterns to be cultivated, in order to blaze a new path, so to speak, on a collective level. But what we're looking at also is the resources on Earth, on the land, right? On the natural resources. So think about how, and I'm going to talk about, these are my values. I absolutely love this planet that we live on. I can get on a soapbox about the exclusionary behavior and how we don't look at this planet as a sentient, conscious energy that gives so much to us. Think about how much this earth gives to all of us. It helps us stay warm in the winter and cool in the summer. It nurtures us with the food that it produces and hydrates us with the water and gives us life. It's all of this. We get to see the beauty through the resources. You are someone who writes on paper, you're using the resources of this earth, even your own toilet paper, your paper towels, whatever it is that you're using, all of this comes from our natural resources. I want us all to think about, are we doing our part to have a lifestyle change that's rooted in values that are based in giving, sharing, and inclusion, and in reciprocity? So often there's a misuse of the natural resources in this world, on this planet, and it is creating destruction. And that Libra South Node is really wanting to highlight these extremes, whether or not we listen, Taurus, Libra, to what is going on just on a planetary level. Okay, take politics out of it, but just this nurturing, conscious energy that we're living on. Are we doing our part where we're showing that there is a respect? How are we giving back to this planet? Or are we just taking? And so that Uranus-Mars conjunction can really be about aligning one's wills with one's values that are rooted in giving, sharing, inclusion in order to have a lifestyle change, in order to create reciprocity with the land that we live on. And that's just one thing that I wanted to say. There's so many things that I could say. About the politics of what is going on. Since Jupiter moved into Gemini, I've talked about propaganda or duplicitous behavior within the government organizations. especially we're going to see that highlighted once Pluto moves back to 29 degrees Capricorn. And that's really about dissolving these old structures in order for a new structures to emerge. Really, it's up to us as human beings to be stewards of this land, right? And to really pay attention where extremes are playing out, and then just to do our own part. So I wanted to speak to that. I know that a lot of astrologers have talked about the Uranus-Mars conjunction, especially with Algol. I don't really want to get into that because I tend to like to talk about things, yes, on a bit of a collective level, but more on personal levels, because the change that we want to see in the world first starts with you. And you can take these archetypes that I'm speaking about every week and you can apply them on a collective level, and you can observe them and see what's going on for yourself. I don't need to be talking about this. I mean, if I was asked to do a talk about this, I would do it if enough of you wanted me to, but I don't feel called to do that right now. More than anything, I like talking about my relationship I have with the planet Gaia, and where I feel like we abuse our natural resources, and how we should be valuing her, because she does give us life and she sustains our life. So it's like, how are we giving back to her? Are we doing natural Libra, or are we, doing distorted Aries Libra? So there's that. The other thing that I want to speak to is on the 18th, Venus is going to trine the North Node in Aries. Venus is in Leo, like I said. So on personal levels, this is a first quarter trine, so it can speak to where we feel a little bit stuck in where we need to take creative action, where we're needing to cultivate something. I talked a little bit about the distortion of the Venus and Leo. Let me talk a little bit about a natural expression of that. A Venus and Leo naturally expressed is going to be rooted in self-love, in self-respect, and self-dignity. It's going to have the Leonian courage to stay within the heart space and to do what's necessary in order to self-actualize. This Leo, Venus and Leo, is ruled by a sun in Cancer. So it can be where we're needing to self-actualize on some type of emotional level. And it can be about a gut check, right? And that trine from Venus and Leo to the North Node and Aries ruled by a Mars and Taurus can be where we're needing to align our will with our values and to really experience this on an emotional level as a way to self-actualize. Where do you feel emotionally drawn to? Is that in your heart center? How are you aligning yourself with your values? Are you cultivating new patterns that are wanting to emerge? Are you cultivating this lifestyle change? Are you doing things just for yourself, or are you doing things because you see that it could benefit other people? Are you balancing that? The other dynamic is that Venus is sextile the South Node in the last quarter phase. And Venus rules the South Node. So it's where, again, we can be self-actualizing through looking at our old emotional patterns within our relationships, where maybe we weren't in self-love. Maybe we stayed in something for a long time, whether it be our family relationships, a work relationship, a friend relationship, a significant other, where maybe that person could never hear where you were coming from. Were you able to be Venus and Leo and to love yourself and to say, hey, maybe I need to do a North Node in Aries and blaze on, as an act of self-love? It can just be bringing up also these prior dynamics for us to reflect on the emotional dynamics of where our lives had reached extremes and how we're wanting to counteract them, and to remain autonomous, seeing as that North Node is in Aries and ruled by Mars and Taurus at this time. Mars in Taurus is also sextile Venus's ruler. So that's like, are you being self-sufficient? Are you being emotionally self-sufficient? Or are you being self-sufficient as an act of love? Are you staying in your heart space? Or are you depending on other people to fill your cup up when you should be filling it up for yourself? This is about Mars and Taurus aligning oneself with values, what you feel to be true as an act of self-love, self-respect, self-dignity, and to cultivate this emotional nurturing as a way to self-actualize in a creative way. So I wanted to speak to that. And then on the 20th, Mars, the North Node's ruler, is going to enter the sign of Gemini. There's a few things I want to talk about this. I had to laugh at the astrology, like just as like it feels like a aha, I love how this kind of works out way. Seeing as the day after Mars enters Gemini, we're going to have a Capricorn full moon ruled by Saturn and Pisces. And I just want to say Capricorn is about authority, whether it be our personal authority or the authority figures in our life. And then on collective levels, it can be about political leaders and the powers that be, right? Well, this is important to keep in mind because Mars entering Gemini on the 20th, the day before, Mars and Gemini can be where we are wanting to question authority, to learn more. What does this mean? What does that mean? It can be really fast-paced energy. It can be where we're even confronting our own inner authority, and maybe we're seeing limitations in our thinking, Gemini, and where we're needing to seeing as Jupiter is also in Gemini now, with Mars now, we're needing to expand upon our own inner knowledge. Where are we being guided? Where are we desiring to go in order to learn more? This is Mars and Gemini. It's like so fast, right? This is a transit where we could be wanting to talk to more people as a way to learn more, to expand our knowledge. But it can also be where we have conversations with other people and we're confronted with, oh my goodness, we have a difference of opinion. And then it kind of throws us back in on ourselves. Like, well, maybe I need to change my thinking. Maybe I'm figuring out that there's some limitation in my thinking, and this conversation over here really helped me to understand that. It's where we can have these types of dialogues with people. On a more mundane level, I'm going to tell you, Mars and Gemini can be where people just are not thinking as much because they've got too much going on. Mars and Gemini in general is about duality. It can be where one has a lot of balls in the air, you know, and is needing to focus and really can't. Mars and Gemini transits, I tend to see people get into more accidents. It's more accident prone. So there's a need to just remember this so that way you can pay attention, to have a little more focus. I'll tell you a great story of Mars and Gemini that pertains to me just to demonstrate this. When we had Mars and Gemini retrograde last year, I was doing a lot during a barbecue at my house. I had kids, I had, you know, friends over, and Gemini rules the hands. So I was working and cooking, and I was doing a lot really fast, and I was cutting onions on a mandolin, which, by the way, knife, a mandolin, that's a Mars thing. So hands, Gemini, Mandolin Mars. And my youngest kiddo said my name, and I looked away and did not pay attention, and I cut part of my finger off. And I had to go to the emergency room, and everyone was left at my house. They finished the cooking, but I missed out on the whole barbecue because of not paying attention. This was also, Mars was squaring my Venus. So I just want to say, Mars in Gemini is asking for you to pay attention a little bit. You could be excited, but it's just pay attention. It wants to be fast. It's an air sign coupled with a fire sign. We know what air does to fire. It ignites. So just remember to slow down a little bit and pay attention, okay? That's what I wanted to say about that. So on the 21st, we are here. We've got our full moon in Capricorn. Let me bring this chart up for all of you to follow along with me. This is, let me do this. This full moon is fascinating to me because this is at the 29-degree mark. Remember, whenever the nodes first entered Libra, Aries, that Pluto was at 29 degrees, Capricorn squaring the nodes. So think back to about a year ago and think about what was going on in your life. All right. Around dealing with maybe your social role or dynamics within your family, or maybe it's recovering your own authority or your ability to ask and answer your own questions, or really working with dynamics that could have revolved around depression and needing to understand your emotional dynamics and where they came from, and conditioning, social, familial, religious, or cultural dynamic, and looking at these extremes and seeing where you needed to create action throughout this whole year. I want you to keep that in mind. And then I want you to keep this in mind. In September, Pluto is going to be back at that 29-degree mark. And then in November, it's going to station and have forward momentum. And then it will enter back into Aquarius for the long haul, for the next 20 years. This is a pivotal time. It's an anaretic degree, and this full moon is really going to help us to culminate all of these dynamics. And then we're going to get another opportunity to really master this. This is bringing it all to a head, right? Full moons tend to bring up all of the emotional dynamics. The sun is opposing the moon, so it is literally illuminating the moon, our emotions, in order for us to understand what here do we need to work with? What do we need to throw off? What do we need to oppose? It's an opposition. So this will, in an interesting way, although it's a full moon, we've got to look at a north node in Aries and a moon conjunct Pluto in Aquarius at 0 degrees. This full moon is also in the 4th house, okay? Something is also wanting to be birthed. So although something has become too full and it's being illuminated, what it is we're needing to work with to throw it off throughout this time period up until Pluto moves back into Aquarius in November, December, we will be feeling the effects of this full moon, and it will be drawing in all the work that we've been doing since last year. So I want you to keep that in mind. Now, let's break this down. This is a moon at 29 degrees in Capricorn, ruled by Saturn and Pisces. And I will annotate this. Here is the moon. It is ruled by Saturn and Pisces. I don't know why it does that. Why does it do that? Let's look here. Okay, let's see if this works this time. Huh, okay, that's fine. I'm still gonna do this. So, a moon in Capricorn, especially in the 4th house, we're gonna use the houses in this chart because this is a Greenwich chart, which is for the collective. There can be a lot of emotional dynamics coming up around the need to be one's authority and the need to look at what it is that we're needing to break free from. That's seen with Pluto and Aquarius here. What it is that we've over-identified on an emotional level that might be where we need to break new ground to cultivate a new structure. That is also rooted in this. Pluto is ruled by Uranus and Taurus. Our values, what is going on inside of us, where we need to get to the bottom of this dynamic. Like I said, it is breaking free of old structures. This is a full moon that is asking you to self-reflect, Capricorn. What can I do differently? This can be where, for some, we feel a bit of loss or hopelessness because this moon is ruled by Saturn and Pisces retrograde. But this is where if we face that kind of inner void, Pluto, that's conjunct this moon, is trining Mars and Gemini. We can all of a sudden, just like that, understand what it is we need to do to break new ground, to create the action necessary. This is where also, remember, Mars and Gemini likes to question authority. And it is trining Pluto, which is conjunct a Capricorn moon. It's where we could be questioning our own inner authority, seeing as Mars is in the 8th house, our own inner authority. Like, what are our psychological and emotional motivations? Where are we getting our security met? Is there a structure within us that needs to change? What have you been working on since last year that's surfacing, revolving around needing to cultivate a new structure? This is where we can feel like we actually can do that. Like, that trine says, hey, it's time to get going. We can break new ground. We can have this lifestyle change. We can question things. We can learn more. It's also where we can be self-improving through purging old man-made constructs. That's seen again with the ruler in the 6th house, where we're doing this deep inner work. For some, it can be where we're really starting to cultivate a more spiritual life, where we're being devoted to this through doing our own inner work, and that is a spiritualizing aspect. And so it takes this Capricornian self-reflection to really confront what isn't right and what is right. How do we want to restructure, and what structures feel sound and safe, that are still promoting evolution and growth for each one of us. But this is also a full moon that's asking us to cultivate new patterns around our relationships by asking these questions, by acting on the ideas and the insights that we have. Mars and Jupiter are both ruled by Mercury and Leo in the 11th house. So it can be where we can be questioning old structures around exclusionary behaviors. This Mercury is in conjunct the full moon. And so for some people, this can be really drumming up family dynamics of not being seen or heard, and how that's affected us emotionally. But that Mercury in the 11th house and the Capricorn moon is saying, be your own authority, emotionally validate yourself, and break free from this dynamic. Because it's Uranus is also in this 8th house. Again, it's the ruler of Pluto. So this can be where all of a sudden we're recalling prior trauma where maybe we weren't in our authority, or we're seeing how our trauma has structured our life. and we're needing to emotionally validate ourselves. There can be a lot of things coming up for people, whether it be their social role, their family role, or just their own, again, their own authority. But it's about what needs to change and what you can do and what are the necessary steps that you can take. How can you restructure this? What are the new patterns that you can cultivate? And seeing as the sun is the ruler of this Mercury and Venus, and it's in the 10th house and it's in Cancer, ruled by that moon, it's really speaking to having this deep self-love and self-respect and self-dignity. It's about being integral with your actions and how you present. It's where if you need to say something to someone, this can be a moon that really brings that up. Where all of a sudden, in order for you to feel like you can restructure, there might be conversations that you feel are necessary to put things to bed, so to speak. And that is really seen with, if you look here, this glyph is the asteroid Cassandra, and she is conjunct that moon. So I want you to think about this. Cassandra is where we can feel, I'm going to stop this share and then I'll bring this back up in a minute. Cassandra is this asteroid of where we can feel like we haven't been seen or we haven't been heard or we haven't been believed. Maybe there's this information that we have that other people are telling us that we're lying about, and because it's challenging their own security or their own sense of personal authority. Cassandra conjunct this full moon can really bring this up as a way to recover your own voice, to say the things that you need to say. Remember, Mercury is in conjunct Cassandra in that full moon. Mercury is also the ruler of Jupiter and Mars is that ruler of the North Node. Mars and Gemini can want to challenge authority. That doesn't mean that you have to question everything. Challenging authority can be, you didn't listen to me, and now I have to make a choice about what I need to do because I don't feel like you respect me. And because I respect myself and I want to love myself, Leo, I need to stand in my own authority, and maybe I need to break new ground. This can also be, if we're in our authority, Mercury and Venus in the 11th house, Venus ruling Uranus in the 8th house, can be where we might need to be a group of one if necessary. That's also seen with Uranus is square Mercury, okay? I don't think I'm going to bring the chart up actually because it's just getting in the way. But you could screenshot it, you can go back, and then you can look at it as I'm talking. But there, that Uranus square Mercury is also, yeah, it can be where one might need to be a group of one if necessary as an act of self-love for the time being, right? I'm cultivating new structures. Maybe that means I need to liberate myself from where my security has lied within these old relationships that I'm realizing I'm not being heard or listened to. It's also Cassandra conjunct this is the resurgence of Cassandra, right? It's about this restructuring of this feminine principle of reclaiming one's voice and inner knowledge and inner authority and nurturing one's emotional dynamics that are centered around their inner knowledge and inner authority and voice. It's about, Cassandra is about one's own personal relationship to self as well. It has a Venus Mercury dynamic going on with it. And so it can really bring up where we felt very wounded around not being heard or listened to or believed, and the need to maybe be a group of one if necessary as a way to heal that, seeing as Cassandra is also ruled by Saturn and Pisces retrograde in the 6th house. There can be self-improvement upon reclaiming one's voice and one's inner relationship to self. I am actually going to share this chart again. I cracked myself up. I'm already feeling the effects of Mars and Gemini. So I do want to say this Uranus Mercury square is about the need to act on something in order to liberate from it. And this can be trauma that deals with these kind of old wounds. You've got to think Uranus is also trine this moon in Cassandra, really helping us to, again, it's pulling in that energy of the week before's Uranus Mars conjunction in Taurus, because it's at that same degree still of how are you, North Node in Aries, cultivating patterns that are in alignment with your values. Are your values in alignment with your own self-respect and self-dignity and self-love? Are you able to nurture your own emotional reality? That's a moon in Capricorn in the fourth. Uranus is also sextile the sun. So that can really be where, again, and it's in the 10th house, we're metamorphosing old emotional and psychological dynamics of where maybe we abandon ourselves and weren't being self-reliant, and now we're pulling in our sense of own authority by nurturing our own emotional dynamics. We're being our own mother and father, essentially. And then I really love that Venus is sextile Jupiter, and Venus is the ruler of the south node, and Jupiter is trining the south node in the first house. So this is where for some people, they could, as they reclaim their voice, they could be understanding that there is unity and diversity, and whether or not someone is listening to you, their actions are going to help you expand upon your own inner knowledge, and you can liberate from some of these old dynamics, or maybe they're able to hear where you're coming from. I'm going to stop this and I'll bring it back up in a second again, but this is really interesting. I had a situation that I feel like really reflects this. Recently, I was talking to a family member not too long ago, and I was wanting to talk about trauma that happened in generations in the past in my family, because I saw some correlations dealing with that within myself. And my family member could not be vulnerable. And that's kind of what I was trying to get to the root of, because I felt oppressed growing up. My voice was suppressed. Anytime I tried to share about traumatic events in my life, I was told to get over it or to move on, that it's over with. And that's an oppressive environment. And it was really interesting because the Jupiter trine the South Node really highlighted these imbalances, and it was pulling in my own Capricorn dynamics of where I felt oppressed and where I then suppressed. I actually had a drinking problem at one point in time, and I was trying to get to the bottom of why was I doing that? And it was, and I all of a sudden recalled that it was I started drinking around the time that I had a bout of PTSD, right? So it's these Uranian, Capricornian, Libran dynamics that were coming up for me. And I was questioning it. I was wanting to understand. And my family member did not want to talk about it, did not want to hear where I was coming from. They just didn't want to talk about the other family members and what had happened. And it did a couple of things for me. One, it made me kind of laugh because I was like, oh yeah, this person has a lot of Libra in their chart and they aren't able to hear where I'm coming from. And then their actions, the feedback I received, Libra, Aries, that I received from having this conversation was actually just what I needed. It expanded my own inner knowledge. Jupiter in Gemini, through the diversity of releasing my expectations, Libra, of how this person was going to communicate with me. But actually, it was the feedback I received that it was validating my experience, because they were doing the thing that I was wondering about, I was questioning about. So I just want you to kind of keep this in mind. This can show up in so many ways. And with Jupiter there's always this kind of levity to this, and Jupiter's also in the ninth house in this chart. So it's like we could have these kind of hard conversations, and um and it be exactly what we need. That person could maybe not answer your questions. They could maybe be oppressive or suppressive, and it could confront you with, oh, this is just how they are. Like, but it could be really validating for you. So that way you know which way you need, what choice you need to make, which direction you need to go for your own healing, which, how to break new ground, how to restructure something, how to release something by just understanding and surrendering this Saturn in Pisces, Neptune in Pisces, that this person is just going to be this way and I'm going to be me, and this, that's what it is. So, but it can still expand your own inner knowledge about something, and it can make you feel really good because you had the courage to say what you need to say or to ask the questions. And it's not your responsibility to control the outcome. And there's something really beautiful and healing about understanding that and just surrendering to what is, right? There's a lot of information on a personal level that one can utilize when things are just what they are, and to let them be, not to try to make it something else, but just to let it, to surrender. Um, a lot of healing can happen, and it sounds almost paradoxical because Capricorn is, it's control freak, right? It wants to control, but it also wants to lose control in order to learn how to surrender. And that's part of Capricorn sextile Pisces, and this full moon is sextile Neptune. That can also be where we have a new ideal, where we get to understand that something can be much bigger than what it once was, and it can help with this restructuring process because we're now aligning ourselves with our own values and we're nurturing ourselves and becoming self-sufficient. So I just wanted to speak to all of this. I feel like it's a really amazing full moon. It helps us to release a lot. It helps us to understand a lot. It helps us to take accountability. It helps us to nurture. It helps us to recover our voice. It helps us understand about expectations and surrendering to the truth and the actual reality of something. And then that beautiful trine from Pluto to Mars helps us make a new choice. So I want us to all work with this. A great way to work with this energy, seeing as there's a lot of Leo energy, is you could sit out by the fire, maybe release what no longer serves you by burning it, maybe fire scrying, seeing the messages that come to you. I love doing this. I have Venus trine to Mars, and they're both in fire signs, and I get so much out of doing that. It feels comforting, and I feel like I get and receive messages from the element of fire. Another great way is like Capricorn needs to be detoxed. It can be where we feel emotionally constipated. Saturn and Pisces and Uranus and Taurus, this can be where, hey, maybe take some long baths with Epsom salt to release. Magnesium is really good for Capricorn dynamics because it helps clear things out. It helps to detoxify. So if you're needing to kind of have a purge of karmic stuff that's coming up, those are two great ways to work with it because they're both purifiers. Fire is the biggest purifier there is, and then, you know, water would come in second, I feel like. So this is a great way to work with this energy. Sound off in the comments. I love hearing from each one of you. I feel like this was a longer video than usual. Whenever I get some time, I'm about to go pick up my kiddos and I have a client coming up. I am going to timestamp these for you all. It's been requested of me to do that from time to time. So anyway, I will talk to you all soon, and have a beautiful full moon.